The version of you that failed to love yourself is the only reason why you recognize the importance of self love in this world, right? The version of you that allowed yourself to be mistreated, allowed yourself to be disrespected, allowed yourself to be taken for granted, is the only reason why the present you doesn't play about your self respect, right? The version of you that allowed yourself to be in toxic situations, unhealthy relationships, is the only reason why you don't allow yourself to be in certain types of relationships anymore, right? And the version of you that made certain mistakes in your past is the only reason why you have the awareness to not make those same mistakes anymore, right? So every version of you that fell, every version of you that stumbled, every version of you that went the wrong way has enabled the present you to be standing today and has enabled you to be who you are today, right? I think so often we hold on to so much regret, so much resentment, so much shame as it pertains to our past self, right? We look back at certain versions of ourselves, certain versions of ourselves, who tolerated disrespect, did certain things, allowed ourselves to be in certain relationships. And we look at those versions of ourselves with shame, with disgust, right? And we find it so difficult to truly forgive ourselves for even doing certain things or being in certain positions, right? And I don't think we truly recognize that when it comes on to life, the only way you can truly step into awareness, the only reason you can truly step into self-love, the only reason why you can be or find the correct path is because you've been the type of person to make certain mistakes in your past, right? Or in a sense, you fail to act from love in your past, right? And so if the version of ourselves that is in the past, the version of ourselves who made certain mistakes and did certain things is a necessity along the path of us being who we are today, then why do we feel the need to hold on to resentment? Why do we feel the need to hold on to shame when it comes on to certain versions of ourselves in the past? Why do we feel the need to look at ourselves with disgust? And why do we find it hard to forgive ourselves? If those versions of ourselves were necessary for us to be who we are today. See, when it comes on to life, you have to be able to love every single version of yourself. Every single version of yourself is worthy of love. And not because they did things, you know, correctly, so on and so forth, but because every single version of yourself is necessary for who you are today. And I said in my last video, if we constantly look at our past self with judgment, or we constantly loathe our past self, then are we truly not judging and holding resentment for our present self because our past self is necessary or is a necessity for who we are today? And so, why are we not giving love to that version of ourselves? Why do we find it hard to forgive ourselves? Why do we find it hard to recognize that we really didn't know any better when it comes on to certain version of ourselves and certain times in our lives, right? Why do we find it hard to do that? You have to be able to love yourself in all ways, always. And what I mean by that is every single part of you deserves your love. Every single version of you deserves your love. Sometimes we say that we want to heal, we want to move forward, we want to grow, but we're actively withholding love from certain versions of ourselves, and then we give love to certain versions of ourselves, right? And how can you truly heal? How can you truly step into wholeness if you deem certain versions of yourself unworthy of your love? It's impossible. Because when you think about love, and when I think about love, love excludes nothing. When you're in love, you even accept the darkest parts of yourself. When you're in love, you see beauty in even the darkest parts of yourself, the darkest versions of yourself, because love excludes nothing and love includes everything. Everything is included in love, right? And it is impossible for you to heal. It is impossible for you to grow. It is impossible for you to stop carrying the remnants of your past if you're withholding love from certain parts of yourself and certain versions of yourself. And the irony is that those versions of yourself are the only reason why you are who you are today. The only reason. If you haven't fallen, then you don't know what it means to stand. If you haven't acted out of love, then you don't know what it means to act within love, in love. If you haven't taken the wrong path, then you don't know what it means to be on the right path, right? So the duality, the polarity that we hold so much resentment for, I'm not saying it's necessarily right. I don't know if it's right. But what I'm saying is that it is necessary. It is necessary, right? And our job isn't to shun the darkness. Our job is to shine our light on the darkness because darkness cannot even exist in the presence of light. Darkness becomes light once it is in the presence of light, right? And when it comes on to ourselves, the darkest versions of ourselves, the darkest parts of ourselves, they become light once they are under the light of our love. And we become integrated once we allow ourselves to accept even the darkest parts of ourselves, and we allow ourselves to give love to even the darkest parts of ourselves, right? I remember this arc in Naruto specifically, right? For you guys who know Naruto or you Naruto fans like me, the part of the show in which he went under the waterfall of truth, and he was facing the darker parts of himself, right? The version of himself which was holding on to resentment, holding on to anger, holding on to hatred, so on and so forth. Initially, he was engaged in a physical battle with a version of himself, right? He was fighting that version of himself. But no matter how much he was fighting that version of himself, he couldn't win, right? He recognized that he couldn't win. And so he went back to face that version of himself again. And instead of fighting it, he gave that version of himself his love. He gave that version of himself, that dark version of himself, his acceptance. And with him giving that version of himself his acceptance, he became whole. He became integrated. He was able to heal that dark version of himself by giving it his love and his acceptance. And in this same way, a lot of us are in a constant battle with the darkest parts of ourselves. And you can't win that battle by, you know, holding on to resentment or hating it, so on and so forth. The only way you're gonna win that battle, quote unquote, win that battle, is if you're able to give those parts of yourself your love. Give those parts of yourself your acceptance. That is the only way. And as long as you keep fighting yourself, as long as you're engaged in a battle and you're holding on to resentment for certain versions of yourself and certain parts of yourself, you're never truly going to heal. Because healing requires you to take every single part of you as a part of you. That is what healing requires. That is what becoming whole requires. Taking every part of you as a part of you and accepting it, loving it, right? That is what is truly required. Damn. Anyways, yeah, that is what truly required. I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. Man, they're going crazy. But yeah, you gotta be able to forgive yourself when it comes down to life. You gotta be able to forgive yourself. I think so many of us in this world, we find it so hard to forgive ourselves. One of the biggest things we struggle with in life is that the animosity, the resentment, the shame that we carry for ourselves. That is one of our biggest problems in life, right? And to step into love, to heal, to grow, you have to forgive, right? You truly have to forgive. I was thinking about the concept of forgiveness the other day, right? I was really thinking about it. And I was watching a video in which someone said that forgiveness is about you doing the internal work to let go of certain emotions and certain negative feelings, right? And I agree that is uh, uh that is a part of forgiveness, right? Doing the work to let go of the emotions. But I think there's also a part of forgiveness that we oftentimes overlook, and that is mentally accepting the past. Accepting the past for what it is. Accepting the things we did, right? Not because they were right, but because the past is the past, and you can truly do nothing about the past. All you can do is to learn from the past and grow and not repeat those same mistakes, right? So much of forgiveness, a huge part of forgiveness is being able to come to terms mentally with the past and accept everything that happened, right? Accept the version of yourself who made certain mistakes. Accept certain versions of yourselves which allowed yourself to be taken for granted. Accept certain versions of yourself who allowed yourself to be in certain relationships, right? A huge part of forgiveness is acceptance, accepting it and not constantly fighting it, because whatever you resist has no choice but to persist, right? And that holds true for every single part of you and every single version of you. And if you can't find it in yourself to forgive yourself, then you're gonna find it hard to forgive others as well, right? Because the same empathy, the same compassion that is needed to forgive someone else is needed to forgive yourself as well, right? The same empathy, same compassion. So I think to truly even forgive certain people in your past who did you wrong, who took you for granted, who did certain things, you first have to find it hard to forgive yourself. Because, like I've always said, how can you give to someone else what you've yet to give to yourself, right? And forgiveness isn't saying that what happened was right, right? It's about you acknowledging the past and recognize that in order for you to move forward, you have to come to terms with the past. And you have to let go of those emotions of guilt, those emotions of shame, those emotions of resentment, if you truly want to heal and if you truly want to move forward in your life. Because everything or anything that you're holding on to is only going to keep you stuck, is only going to keep you stagnant. So, truly, forgiveness is for you first and foremost. You're forgiving yourself so that you can move forward. And you have to know that no matter what you did in the past, no matter what circumstance you place yourself in, you are never truly unworthy. And you're never truly being judged unless you truly judge yourself. And we are always our own judge in this thing that we call life, because no one has the power to truly judge us. We are our only judge. And if we are our only judge, then in a sense, we can sort of come to terms with the past and let go of certain guilt, let go of certain resentment, let go of all the negative feelings that we're carrying, because we hold the power over our own lives, and we hold the power over our own emotions and state of being. We truly do. So you are never unworthy because of your mistakes. You are never unworthy because of any version of you. And those versions of you which fell down is the only reason why you're able to stand today. So give every part of you your love. Give every part of you your acceptance. Give every part of you your compassion, your empathy, your patience. And recognize that they are necessary, or they were necessary, for who you are today. And if you truly want to heal, if you truly want to move forward in your life, it won't do you any good to hold on to the shame. And it won't do you any good to hold on to any sort of resentment. Because to truly heal and step into wholeness, you have to be able to love even the darkest parts of you. And you got to be able to love even the darkest past versions of yourself, quote unquote past versions of yourself. It's a must, it's a necessity. There's no going around it. Gotta be able to love every part of you. So thank you guys for being here with me. Um, I kind of lost my train of thought when those birds began to make all them noise and shit. But I said what I needed to say, and hopefully this video reaches someone who has been holding on to a lot of guilt and holding on to a lot of shame. And don't let anyone make you feel bad for anything in your past, because none of us are truly pure, in the sense that no one in this world, no one in history is exempt from making any sort of mistake in their past, right? We're all guilty of it. And that is how we truly learn. And like I said in my last video, good people aren't created from just good times and good experiences. The kindest, the most loving, the most compassionate people you will ever come across in this world are some of the people who did some of the darkest things and found themselves in some of the darkest places. Because how can you truly step into light? How can you truly step into love if you don't know what it means to be in darkness and you don't know what it means to step out of love? Right? You truly can't. So thank you guys for being here with me. I apologize for the noise. Um, my fellow birds causing the video. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but probably has to do something about the weather. Cause now, oh shit, now they're gone. There's literally nowhere to be found now. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm not um educated on stuff like this. But yeah, take care of yourselves. Give yourselves a bit of love every day, like I always say. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace and blessings.